When Elisa was hospitalized with acute appendicitis, her mother, Paola, chose to stay with her perfect sister instead of taking her to the hospital. That night marked the end of an illusion and the beginning of a silent transformation. Years later, when Elisa became a successful neurosurgeon in Milan, the same mother who had abandoned her came back to look for her, but this time in desperate need of medical help. The sweetest revenge is not anger, but hard-won indifference. Subscribe to our channel to never miss true stories of revenge, justice, and personal rebirth. I felt a burning pain pierce my right side as if with a glowing blade. I was curled up on the living room couch, with my knees pressed to my chest, trying to breathe without screaming. In the entrance hallway, my mother Paola stood before the mirror meticulously, attending to her hairstyle with a nearly obsessive level of detail. "Mom!" I whispered, my voice cracking with pain. "I can't take it anymore. You have to take me to the hospital." She turned around slightly, giving me an annoyed look. "Elisa, you know that Aurora's important dinner is happening tonight? I can't miss it. Your sister has worked so hard to organize everything." Aurora. Always Aurora. The perfect daughter. The one who studied economics at Bocconi. The one who already had a lawyer boyfriend. The one my mother would have gone through the ringer for. I was simply Elisa, a 24-year-old fourth-year medical student, the kind who dedicated too much time to studying and consequently lacked any real enjoyment. "Mom, this is no joke. I think it's the end of it. The pain has gotten worse in the last few hours." She exhaled with impatience, glancing at her lipstick in her little pocket mirror. "You always have some kind of drama, Elisa. The issue last week was a headache. Even before that, I had a stomachache. You're a hypochondriac, I've always told you that." A burning sensation in my eyes was caused by the tears. Not physical pain, not... I was used to being the last thing on my mother's list of priorities, but that night, with my body screaming at me that something was wrong, I was hoping for a little attention. "If it's really serious," she added, putting on her pearl earrings and a succal, "call a taxi. I have to go." Aurora specifically requested my presence there at 8 o'clock sharp to take the photos before the dinner. The door closed behind her with a final click. I was left, standing there, alone in the Turin apartment we had shared for years, the pain growing stronger with every breath. I picked up the phone with shaking hands and called my only trusted friend, Martina. "Elisa, what's going on?" "Your voice. Can you take me to the Mauriciano? I think it's the Apex." Martina arrived in 15 minutes, helped me down the stairs, supporting me as every movement was agony. During the car ride, the pain became unbearable. Because of Martina's foresight, I could vomit into a plastic bag, something she had the wisdom to bring along. "Where's your mother?" she asked, her jaw clenched. "At Aurora's dinner," I replied simply. There was no need to say anything else. Martina knew my family dynamics. In the emergency room, the doctors examined me immediately. "We see the pain in the lower right quadrant, the fever that is on the rise, and the abdominal rigidity. All the classic signs." The surgeon on duty, Dr. Ferretti, was direct and professional. "Acute appendicitis," he confirmed after the ultrasound. "We need to operate immediately. If we wait any longer, we risk perforation and peritonitis. It's a matter of hours." Like and subscribe for more stories like this. I signed the consent forms with shaking hands. Martina stayed with me until they took me to the operating room, shaking my hand. "Are you calling your mother?" the nurse asked as she prepared the IV. "No," I said in a flat voice. "No need." When I woke up after the surgery, the first thing I saw was Martina asleep in the uncomfortable chair next to the bed. There was no one else. I checked my phone. No calls, no messages from my mother. Not one. 3 days later, when I returned home with my surgical wound still aching, I found my mother and Aurora sitting at the kitchen table, laughing over a photo album from the dinner. Aurora was wearing a burgundy Valentino dress, her hair perfectly styled. The photos were professional, glossy, Instagram ready. "Oh, Elisa," my mother said, barely looking up. "How's your appendicitis, right? I told you were overreacting." "They operated on me urgently," I replied in a neutral voice, leaning on the counter because standing still hurt. The surgeon said that if I had waited a few more hours, the appendicitis would have ruptured. I would have risked peritonitis, sepsis. Aurora snorted. "Always so dramatic." Anyway, look at these photos. The dinner was an incredible success. Everyone complimented me on the organization. My mother smiled with pride. My daughter is so talented. She has a bright future ahead of her. Something inside me broke that night. Not with noise, not with explosive anger, but with a final silence. Like when you close a door and throw away the key. I went up to my room, closed the door, and cried. Not because of the physical pain, but because of the final realization that my mother would never see me, never choose me, never love me as she loved Aurora. That night, I made a decision. I would no longer seek her affection. I would no longer hope. I would focus on myself, on my career, on my future. And I would build a life where I would never need her again. The following months were of industrious silence. I continued my studies with renewed ferocity. I specialized in neurosurgery, one of the most. I worked 16 hours a day studying until 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. I sacrificed every moment of leisure. My mother commented that I was obsessed and associative. Aurora laughed, saying that I was wasting my youth. I graduated with honors. My mother didn't come to the ceremony because Aurora had an important job interview scheduled that day and needed some moral support. Martina sat next to me and applauded when I received the parchment. That evening, I had dinner alone in a trattoria near the university, toasting to my future with a glass of Barbera. The residency was even more brutal. Nights in the hospital complex, cases, mistakes that haunted my dreams. But every time I thought of giving up, I remembered that evening on the couch, the pain that was tearing me apart, my mother phasing her hair in the mirror, and I kept going. At 29, I was a successful neurosurgeon at the San Raffaele Hospital in Milan. I had published 3 articles in international journals. I had been invited to conferences all over Europe. I earned more in a month than my mother had earned in a year, and I didn't speak to her anymore. After graduation, I was 29. After graduating, I had moved to Milan permanently. I changed my phone number. I replied to my mother's emails with short, formal, detached messages. When Aurora got married, I sent an expensive gift, but I didn't attend the wedding. I had planned to have surgery, which is what I told them. That much is certain. Write in the comments what you would have done, and don't forget to subscribe. My mother tried to get back in touch a few times. Messages like, Elisa, I know you're busy, but I miss you. Or your sister always asks about you. I read them and didn't answer. Silence was my armor, my hard-won peace. Then, 3 years later, came the phone call that changed everything. It was a Sunday morning in November. I had just finished a 36-hour shift and was about to collapse into bed when the phone rang. Unknown number. I was about to decline, but something made me answer. Elisa? Aurora's voice, but different, broken, terrified. Elisa, please, don't hang up, it's Mom. My heart slowed. What's wrong? She had a stroke, a major ischemic stroke. We are at the Molina Hospital in Turin. The doctors say that his condition is serious and he requires urgent neurosurgical intervention, but they do not have any specialists immediately available here. Elisa, you work at San Raffaele. You're a neurosurgeon, please. Please. I was silent for a long moment. Images flashed through my mind. My mother in the mirror, the door closing, the pain in her side, the operating room, the 3 days in the hospital alone. Elisa, are you still there? Yes, I said in a flat voice. Can you do something? Can you help us? Mom needs you. The irony was so bitter that I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. Send me the CT scans and the medical reports. I'll look at them. Thank you, Elisa. Thank you. I knew you wouldn't. I didn't say I'd have the surgery. I interrupted her. I said I'd look at the reports. This is different. I hung up before she could answer. The images arrived in 20 minutes. She opened them on her computer, zooming them in on the screen. As a neurosurgeon, I knew exactly what I was seeing. A large ischemic stroke in the left hemisphere, with a risk of cerebral edema and herniation of the trendoid. Without immediate intervention, my mother would have suffered permanent damage or worse. I stared at those images for an entire hour. Not with the clinical coldness I used with unknown patients, but with something more complex. Old pain, deep-seated anger, and underneath it all, hidden but present, a spark of that little girl who had only wanted to be seen by her mother. I picked up the phone and called my chief physician at San Raffaele. Doctor, I have an urgent case. The patient, who has a large ischemic stroke, requires immediate transfer and urgent surgical intervention. Can I take care of her? He accepted without hesitation. He knew my skills. I called Aurora. I'll arrange the transfer. She'll be here within 4 hours. Get ready. Elisa, I don't know how to thank you. Mom, it's gonna be like this. It's not for her. I interrupted her again. It's for me because I'm not like her. I don't abandon my mother, people when they need it. And I hung up. The surgery lasted 7 hours. It was complex, delicate. I had to remove the clot without causing further damage to the surrounding tissues. The team assisted me in silence, focused. When I finally closed and took off my gloves, I was exhausted but satisfied. The operation had been a success. She would have lived, needing intense rehabilitation therapy, but would regain most of her vital functions and daily activities afterward. When I left the operating room, I found Aurora and my father in the waiting room. My father, whom I hadn't seen for years, seemed to have aged suddenly. Aurora's eyes were red from crying. How is she? My father asked, now standing up. She's stable. The surgery went well. It will take time, but she will recover. Aurora hugged me. I remained rigid, not returning the hug. Can we see her? My father asked. She's in intensive care. You can see her tomorrow. And you? Aurora asked. Will you stay? No. I'm going back to Milan tonight. I have other patients. It wasn't entirely true. I had asked for 3 days off, but I didn't want to stay. I didn't want to be there when my mother woke up. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Aurora. Mom has been discharged. She's in rehab. She's asking for you. She wants to see you, to thank you. I'm glad she's feeling better, I said in a professional tone. Elisa, please. She wants to talk to you. Do you understand? She's understood a lot of things. There's nothing to understand, Aurora. I'm a neurosurgeon. She was a patient. I did my job. Isn't that true, and do you know that? Why did you come? I came because I'm not like her, I said, in a firm voice. Because I don't look in the mirror while someone is suffering. Because I chose to be different. But that doesn't mean I've forgiven her. It doesn't mean I want to rebuild something that never existed. Silence on the other end. Tell her that I wish her good rehabilitation, and that I hope that one day, when Aurora needs her, she'll be there, because I know what it means when there's no one there. I hung up for the last time. 2 years have passed since then. My mother has almost completely recovered. Aurora sends me periodic updates that I read without responding. Recently, she wrote to me that my mother often cries, that she talks about me, that she would like to go back and do everything differently. However, time is irreversible, and some doors once shut stay shut forever. My life continues in Milan. I am in a serious relationship with a cardiologist colleague. We bought an apartment together in the Porta Romana area. I was recently offered the position of director of the neurosurgery department at the age of 34, a rare achievement. Every now and then, on quiet evenings, I think back to that night on the couch, to the pain that pierced me, to my mother closing the door. And then I think of that operating room, to my hands that saved her life while she slept unconscious. And what would you have done in my place? The sweetest revenge is not shouting rage. It is not cruel punishment. It is becoming the person you would have liked to have by your side when you needed it. It is getting up off the floor where they left you and build a life so full that there is no more room for their rejection. It is looking back and knowing that you survived, not despite their abandonment, but thanks to the strength they forced you to find within yourself. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories of personal rebirth. My mother will still look for me, perhaps. Aurora will continue to send messages, and I will continue on my path, not with resentment, but with the peace of mind of someone who chose herself when no one else did, because in the end, the sweetest revenge is living well, being happy, waking up every morning to a life that you built with your own hands, knowing that no one can take it away from you. And that night, when I saved my mother, I didn't do it for her. I did it for myself, to show myself that I have become exactly the person I wanted to be. Someone who doesn't give up, who doesn't look away, who doesn't close doors while others suffer. I am Elisa, and this is my story of rebirth. The end.